right, Dr. Brian.
Hello.
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming out so early in the morning. You know,
No problem.
Yeah. It's a Sunday morning, and normally this is a day to chill or whatever. But no,
Not for me.
not for you. What do you
for
got
me.
going on? What's the big news for today?
For today, in a couple hours, actually, I'll be competing in the IBJJF Orange County Open Tournament and OC Fairgrounds. And so I thought I was going to go on yesterday. We had planned to do this and found out I was shifted to Sunday. And so I called you and so forth. And part of me was thinking like, man, do I want to do a podcast and be thinking about my tournament? But you know what? I decided when we talked over at headquarters, I said, you know what? My match today's at about 3:00. I said, I'd rather do something, distract me rather than just be sitting around all day and thinking about the tournament. So I think this was perfect timing, actually.
Cool, yeah. And just to point out, IBJJF, that's the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation.
Correct.
Yeah, and they have a tournament like this Orange County one. I think it's the first one they're throwing, right? But it's big. I heard it's like sold out, right? Is that correct?
Well, not the first one. I'm not sure about the first one, but they've definitely had several Orange County tournaments, I believe, IBJJF. Typically, it's in Los Angeles, sometimes as far as Santa Cruz and San Diego. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you if they've ever had an IBJJF one in Orange County, if this is the first one.
Oh, no, they've had them in Orange County. I know that. They've had the Pan Ams.
Okay.
But I think it was called the Orange County, right? What's the name of this tournament? Isn't it called the Orange County?
It's the Orange County Open, I believe.
Yeah, this is the first Orange County Open.
Got it.
This tournament itself.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there may have been one other one, but yeah, no, they used to have all the big tournaments here.
Yeah, well, yeah. Before the pandemic, they had the Pan Ams at UC Irvine, and of course in the Long Beach Pyramid, they have the Worlds, and then of course the Vegas Master Worlds. But yeah, definitely didn't realize this is the first OC Open. So this is good stuff to know. I didn't realize that.
I could double check that. I mean,
I'll double check.
I've been out of the competition circuit for a while, but
yeah.
I think it is.
Okay.
And speaking of competition, Neiman Gracie, did you?
Of course. He's fighting this weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, he won.
He won.
Yeah, he won. Armbar.
Armbar.
Yeah. It's pretty cool because Professor Philip and I always joke with him, because he's been prepping all, this whole time to go against him. We've been cracking jokes, but I won't even go into the jokes because they're inappropriate. But but we joked to him to his face, not behind his back. But I knew he would win, or he had the ability to win. My concern was that Neiman, he fights in Bellator, MMA, and MMA, jiu-jitsu for MMA is different than jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu tournaments. And he went against Benson Henderson, and Benson Henderson, even though he has an MMA background, he's been in the competition circuit. Mm-hmm. So he's fighting for position to the next jiu-jitsu move or jiu-jitsu position, as opposed to a position for striking or whatever. So I was like, yeah, Neiman I don't know if he's done a tournament in a while, so let's see how this goes. And from what I understand, because I didn't get a chance to watch it live. It was in, I think, Abu Dhabi.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and I just saw some highlights, but they left all the highlights. They left all the good parts out.
Good parts out, of course.
Yeah, because they want you to buy it or whatever.
Exactly.
But I guess from what I hear, he dominated every round. And it was just a matter of time. And the problem was they had rounds, and I think they're 3-minute rounds, and so they would just stop you 3 minutes in. You got to start over, and could you imagine that in a tournament? Someone keeps stopping you, and you got to come back and I think start standing back up again. So it was kind of a pressure to hurry up and try to finish. And I think he got him in the third. But at the end of every round, he was one just right there about to finish. And so
amazing, yeah. Because I see him a lot in the Saturday competition class, and I know Professor Philippe for sparring. He'll choose some people, and I have not gone with him yet.
Oh, Neiman?
He's a beast, and he's just very fluid, and he's big too and strong, and he's just so fluid. And
you're right. And Neiman, the thing with Neiman, to kind of give you his background, is he was trained out with Renzo for years, and he's been training with John Danaher. So his Neiman's leg lock game is out of control. Like, I don't know if you ever gotten, you haven't rolled with him, but if you're getting a leg entanglement with him.
Oh, I've seen him. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it in training, and he's just so fluid, and he gets to it, and he's patient, but he'll eventually get to it.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no way out.
Yeah,
like, there's no way out when he gets you there.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. Well,
thank you.
I hope that you win. I hope that, I mean, I know you win, dude. You got the skills, bro. You've already won some tournaments, right? Like, you've went in there and kicked butt. And
I have, luckily. I've had.
Don't say luckily, bro. Skillfully.
Okay. But yeah, that's one of my goals. Is I've always wanted to win at an IBJJF tournament at my belt level, and fortunately, I have, starting at blue. And so,
nice.
Humbly speaking, I moved up middleweight. I used to always be light. And I realized I like eating, I like working out hard in the gym. And so starting this year, 2023, I moved up to middleweight, and I'm really enjoying it. And so I just feel better. I feel just more natural in me.
So wait, lightweight, that's 160 to 168, is it?
It is up to 168.
Okay, yeah, up to 168.
Yeah, middleweight goes up to 181.
181.
And so I usually allot 5 pounds for my gi and food and liquid. And I'm actually underweight for middle. I've been trying to gain 5 pounds for the past year, and for some reason I haven't. I think because I did a lot of keto diet to stay in the lightweight.
Yeah.
I think my internal system just changed, and no matter how much rice I eat, no matter how much I eat, I just can't get to 175 that I wanted to. So I hover around 170, 172.
Well, you got to think too, man. You're burning some calories, training. So
True,
you're probably burning through whatever you're eating. I remember when I used to, this is a long time ago, but when I was competing a lot, I would track my calories, and I was eating about 6,000 calories a day, and I was still losing weight. I could not gain, but I was training twice a day, and I'm thinking, we're probably burning 1,000 calories per session, and because it's equivalent to like HIIT training, you're burning still
exactly.
Throughout the day, and then you train again. Yeah.
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, the amount of caloric burn in each of those sessions, and for sure. So I got to figure out how to gain that weight, and
you might need a supplement. I would if you want to gain weight, from my body reacts very well with weight gain to creatine.
Okay.
Creatine will make you put on some weight, dude.
I've been doing some protein powder, and I started implementing mixing a little bit of white rice with my brown rice. I kind of don't want to do too much white rice. I grew up with that, and
dude, that's like crack, dude.
And I know. So I do a little bit of brown rice and a lot of protein, but I just can't break that hump.
Yeah, well, creatine, what it'll do is you'll look bigger, but what it is your body will just retain more water, which will make you heavier. But the benefit of creatine is that your what do you call it? Lactic acid threshold.
Okay.
It increases.
Oh, wow.
So you go longer without burning out.
Okay.
So a lot of the MMA guys take it. The ones who could take it, well, it depends on your body. You don't know until you try it. Some people's bodies, like say Juan's, he could take creatine and nothing happened. He could still cut weight, right? But other people like me, it makes me gain.
Yeah.
So that's why one time I almost went up. I accidentally almost went up to middle. Look how small I am, dude. Like right now I'm 144.
Got it.
I almost went up to 170.
Wow.
Quickly.
Wow.
Yeah. So creatine will do that, and the good side to it is not only will you be bigger, physically weight wise, is you're it almost feels like your VO2 max increases, but it's actually you just don't really your lactic acid threshold increases.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's good stuff. I'll try that. This is my last tournament of the year, and I'm going to try some things out. And I know I'm glad there's another option than white rice.
So white rice is addictive, dude.
Well, it is. I grew up all it, and I realized, at least for me at my life stage, white rice is great. I just realized, man, I gotta.
What does it do to you? Does it do at this life stage, at this stage in your life?
Well, it's a high carb, so your sugar levels and so forth, and I'm Filipino, and so we enjoy the white rice, and I've just had people who are having challenges with their health because of the amount of white rice intake. There's nothing wrong with white rice, and it's great. For me, I just want to make sure I watch how much I indulge in.
Yeah, and also, if you ever get a chance to, just on the rice tip, what I started eating like when I go out or I get sushi, black rice.
Oh, black rice.
Have you ever had that?
No, I've had brown rice sushi, which is rare when you go out to eat sushi, but I've not heard of black rice.
Yeah, black rice. There's a restaurant, not a restaurant, a grocery chain that has a restaurant inside, 2 different restaurants inside of it. But one of them's a sushi restaurant. It's called Air One, but it's pronounced it's spelled EREWHON. It's in LA, Culver City,
Nice.
Calabasas. Everything's organic in the whole grocery store.
Wow.
It's like Whole Foods, but a tier above it.
Got it.
And the fish is wild, certified wild. Everything's organic. But black rice, from what I understand, is even more nutrient dense than brown, and it's black. Like you look at it, and go, oh my god! Like it's black, purplish, and yeah, you can actually buy. I think at Trader Joe's, you can actually buy a bag of black rice.
I'll look at that.
Yeah.
Low carb, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, high fiber.
High fiber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm half Filipino, and I grew up with, dude. There was years of my life where the main course at dinner was like fried chicken and white rice. Yep. Then sometimes for dessert, my mom would white rice with butter and sugar. You ever have
yeah,
yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that.
What about suman? Have you ever had suman? It's the sweet rice, coconut milk wrapped in banana leaves.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Suman, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. I mean, I indulge. Actually, post tournament, I treat myself, right, to some Filipino food that I usually don't normally engage in. So I always have a treat right after.
In your lifespan, like growing up eating Filipino food, was there a period in your time in your adult life or in your life where you were just very overweight, or you always been fit?
I wouldn't say overweight, but I was too big for my frame, right? There was a time where I went through high school days. I grew up in the era in the 90s where just be big as huge as possible. Hulk Hogan days, just get huge. That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you have cardio. At least that's how I looked at it.
No, I grew up in the same era.
Yeah,
I get it.
I was really big in high school and really big in college because I would lift heavy. I was eating 6 meals a day, potatoes, protein powder. And at least for my height, I was probably too big for my frame. So I was bulk, and that's what I was known for. And then probably when I hit graduate school, I said, you know what? I want to get more lean and fit. Then again, it was probably because of starvation, because you don't eat this much in graduate school, and you just don't have a budget. And so I just started losing weight, and I started liking it. And I wanted to. It was easier to fit in clothes and stuff, and so I like it now. I like to be leaner and fit, and on the mats, I like to be faster and quicker. And so I think this is a body type that I think is more fit for me. Yeah.
You notice too when you're leaner and fitter, like people compliment. They notice it. They go, hey. But it's very uncommon in America nowadays for someone to be fit like you, to walk around like it. Most people, and especially where you go. Like, have you ever been to Central California, like Bakersfield or?
I have.
Yeah, like. This is going off of visual, but most people seem to be not in shape over there.
Okay.
And so if you walk around, like you stand out like a sore thumb. Like I used to date a girl who was a fitness competitor, bikini division, and we would go there to Bakersfield to visit family. And she walked in the grocery store. People were staring at her like where did you come from? Like they've never even seen someone like
alien.
That. Yeah, because
Yeah, it's just so foreign to them.
Yeah, exactly. But there's something interesting you say when you talked about graduate school. A lot of people at our gym don't know you're a doctor, and they kind of like, well, Brian's a doctor. Can you explain your education background and your training? Yeah, so that people know.
Well, you know what Professor Philippe, my moniker is at HQ, right?
Maybe. Okay. Wait, no, Eddie Bravo.
So before I even started jiu-jitsu, my daughter would train there since she was probably 6 years old.
Yeah.
And so that's before I was training. So I was there, and Professor Philippe, when he first saw me, he says, "You look like Eddie Bravo." And to this day, that's what everyone knows me by. There are some people in the gym who don't even know my real name, and they just call me Eddie. And so when we got time to roll, I have to clarify, and especially new students, because people say I do look like Eddie Bravo and so forth. And even Professor Aubrey, as a joke, he'll introduce me to new members coming in, said, "This is Eddie Bravo," and they'll look at me and he won't correct them. They'll say, "Really?" And they'll never correct them. And then I have to clarify later if they really truly believe I'm Eddie Bravo. And especially before we roll, I'm a purple belt. And I clarify to people, I am not Eddie Bravo. I'm not a devoted Eddie Bravo, but to this day, like I said, and so it's funny. So I'm known as Eddie, EB. Even I sign my initials sometimes on a thread, that EB, for jiu-jitsu people. But yeah, Eddie Bravo is my name. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so people don't know, and I think last time, when you posted a picture of us, and people were like, "Hey, I had no idea," but education. I got a bachelor's from psychology from Cal State Fullerton. Then I got a master's in psychology from Pepperdine University. And then I went to the University of Oklahoma. And I was originally in a PhD program for a field called industrial organizational psychology, which has nothing to do with therapy. These are your business consultants. They study behavior in the workplace.
Yeah.
And then I get my PhD from the University of Oklahoma in counseling psychology as well. And so yeah, that's...
What made you go into psychology?
Well, prior to going to Oklahoma, that's kind of the work I was doing. I was used to work with severely emotionally abused adolescents, and that was during my master's program. And I got used to it, and I enjoyed it. And then I fell upon the industrial organizational field and didn't know too much about it, but it kind of sounded good. You're a consultant, and you work with companies. And so I went into that. Then I just realized I got a lot of great skills from there. I just didn't realize that it wasn't a great fit for me. And I've had people telling me, even prior to going to that industrial organizational program, that, hey, you'd be a good clinical psychologist. And finally, it just happened. It wasn't a straight path. And luckily, at the University of Oklahoma, they had a clinical program. And I just transferred to it. And I believe that there's sometimes no straight path. And it took me a while to get there. And I'm really happy. This is what I believe I should be doing. I believe it's in line with my skills, my abilities, my values. And so I'm really happy to where I ended up. And so it's crazy how things end up like this sometimes.
Nice. That's good that you found your purpose. Like, I changed my major, quite a few times.
Me too.
Yeah, and just kind of hopped around. And even though I have, 2 degrees myself, bachelor's and master's,
Oh, wow.
I don't
Use them?
Well, I mean, I have a master's in business, I guess.
Okay.
But that doesn't teach you to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It just teaches you to go maybe work in a corporate office somewhere in a cubicle and hate your life. Yeah. But it's interesting that you found your way and it worked out well. So, but back to you working. So when you go through like a PhD program, there's there research involved with that? Like, do you have to like? Because I know, like, say with my master's, I had to do research.
Yeah.
But PhD has to be the next level of research, right? I'm assuming. I've never went for a PhD.
Yeah, historically speaking, PhD, that's what we're known for. It's research-based. And University of Oklahoma is what we call an R1 school. So it's heavy on research. And so, yes, and so we have to, for the doctoral level, we call it a dissertation. It is your research project where you design a study, collect data, and then write it up, and you have to defend it in front of a board, typically of what we call a major professor and other faculty, and you defend it. And that is the goal. That is the last hoop, so to speak, to getting your actual PhD. So, yeah, there's quite a bit of research involved in the PhD level.
Yeah, actually, my research for my master's thesis was Google. And Google was new at the time. And this is before there was Google Ads or anything. It was just that stripped down website that just said Google. Do you remember when it was just basic? They weren't making money yet. And I broke down why they'll be successful. I was obviously wrong. I was wrong. I had no idea, but it worked. It passed. But I didn't think of the because I thought they were going to go for ads, which they do. Well, maybe I was kind of right. They're going to go for ads, which they do. You always get Google ads. But I had it wasn't even in my world, my hemisphere of thinking that user activity metadata would be tracked. And they're using that. That's the money,
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea.
The metadata, meta-analysis, and stuff like that.
Yeah, because remember, Google wasn't making money and Facebook wasn't making money. They were just platforms that people were using. And people were like, they were going public. And I remember all these financial analysts would say, well, how are they going to make money? I mean, people using these free, if you're giving away something for free, how are you going to make money? And they had the whole time, they had it in their pocket. Like, dude, it's that consumer information that we could sell, or we could sell it to the government. We could sell it to private companies or whatever else. So that's pretty cool. So over the years now, I'm pretty sure that you've worked with a lot of clients and from different walks of life.
I have.
Yeah. Is it safe to assume from children to adults?
Children to adults. Usually, the youngest client I think I've ever worked with was maybe 5 years old,
Ooh.
and worked with up to the spectrum. The range is seniors, right? People in their 70s, and for various reasons, whether it be they're helping a family member, a child, grandchild, or they themselves are going through something in their life. So definitely a range of age and presenting issues and levels of acuity. So I was very blessed to have worked with such a wide range.
When you work with these clients, I'm pretty sure you have like a set of beliefs or like, you know, some type of structure that you work with, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the like the beliefs or what that you bring when you work with these different clients?
Well, when you ask the beliefs, it's more of sort of a framework in how to work with different clients. And one thing that's important for me as I've grown and developed as a clinician is to understand that literally every individual is different. They have a unique story, and they just have different elements about them, whether it be their age, their gender, their culture, their values, their spirituality, their skills, abilities. And so that's one thing one of the beliefs I need to do that I work on is looking them from a more comprehensive and holistic level. And and what are their motivations? You know, what are the things that they want to work on in their goals? So I look at that on a very holistic view. But one thing that I find a lot with, I would say probably 90% of my clients, no matter if they're younger or adult or what have you, is when I work with them and get a history, I would say 90% of the clients, their current struggles can be traced back to some earlier point in their life. And typically that's childhood and adolescence, adolescence meaning teen years. And invariably, almost always, you can trace something back then to that earlier period of time. And it's because that is a pretty vulnerable time for people in that early years, those early time years. I believe there's a lot of imprinting that can take place, and for various reasons. So yes, every once in a while you get a client who maybe had some, so to speak, healthy pathway in life, and maybe something in their adulthood happens. They get into an accident, they get a medical condition, maybe they have experienced some trauma. But most of the time, whether it be their belief systems, how they view the world, how they view themselves, sometimes you can really trace back to that ideology or that origin point to some event or events, and typically something traumatic or distressing in their childhood and adolescent years.
Okay, so what you're saying is, the simplified is that is that it's adults are basically operating like, well, no, you said it right, but I'm just trying to conceptualize this so I can wrap my head around it. So as adults, we're interacting in the world, but a lot of our interactions are based on events or the programming that occurred when we were kids.
It can be. In terms of especially, because if you think about it, right, we grew up in a family till we're maybe 18 years of age, at least living with family members, and there's a lot of role modeling that takes place. I look at childhood and adolescence is like kind of the movie that we live in, right? And the habits, the ways we deal with things, the way we view the world is very impressionable in those time of years. It's like that blank slate, especially for kids. And
so we're affected by most people are affected by their inner child and things that occurred to us when we're kids, good or bad, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So how much of an impact does that have on a person? Like, let's say if it does have an impact, is it a strong impact, or, like our personalities, are they locked in childhood, or how does that work?
It varies. One thing I want to definitely working with individuals and clients is there's a whole spectrum and range. There's a lot of variables to take into, and you mentioned personality, there's upbringing, experiences. Sometimes someone can go through some major trauma and live a very functional life, and someone deal with trauma and go down a different path. And so that's one thing to remember is working with people and individuals is there's so many variables, and that's what we do. I look at my role as sort of as an investigator. What people give me is a collage of information, and I try to put it together and try to understand some theme going on there. And so that's one thing I want to mention. And so, but can it have an impact? Back to your question, it absolutely can have a significant impact, most especially if those issues aren't resolved, right? And you mentioned the word inner child. And so just to clarify, inner child is a belief system in the work that we do that there's a significant event, typically a traumatic or distressing event or events in one's life, typically in childhood, that leaves a pretty significant mark, fracture in someone, or an impairment. And inner child is like this arrested development, or where there's a part of a person that stops developing in some arena, and this inner child is this inner child within them that stays stuck, right, when they don't work through and resolve some of those issues. And so that's what we mean by inner child. The person grows and develops into an adult and so forth, but what we call is that it's like this unintegrated self, right?
Yes.
Let's say, for example, you have a 20-year-old client that comes in, and maybe at 8 years old, this client suffered a traumatic event, maybe an accident of some sort, and they never got to really resolve. On some level, there's an 8-year-old child within them that could be fearful, maybe angry, maybe confused. And that's what we mean by that inner child. That inner child, what we say is driving our bus, right? And imagine a child driving a bus. It could be emotional, impulsive, needs unmet, and fearfulness. And so that's what we mean by inner child. So I'm really glad you brought that term up because it's really important to recognize.
I've seen that in people. I've seen the because I've done inner child work myself.
Okay.
And as a client, not as a as a psychologist as yourself, but I could see I recognize it in other people. There's like an arrested development that occurs where like I like say I'll use say my most recent relationship that I got out of or ended or whatever you want to call it. I recognize in that person pretty early on that though they're approaching 40 years of age, they're in certain aspects of their life there was or their aspects of their personality, they were like a child, and their reasoning was very childlike. It's almost like they didn't know how to be an adult in that pocket, spectrum of their life. And I found that very interesting. I was like, wow, man. And I even would have talks with them about it. And it got to the point where they recognized it. And, I mean, maybe eventually they'll do work on it, but they recognized it. Like, man, I do, behave like a teenager or like stuck at 15 years old, even though I'm there. And that connects to one other thing, too, is that as I left high school, I'm pretty sure you had to have experienced, a lot of people have experienced this, where you've left high school and you went to college and say you got married and had kids like you did and so forth. I did the same route. And so you caught up with someone from high school and you spoke to them and they behave as if they were still in high school. Like, they're still kind of immature and in that zone. It was like, what? Like, it's very strange, Have you've experienced that?
Yeah. Yeah. And you said a couple great things, but and when you said about that personality attribute and so forth, and what when I work in substance abuse arena, right, and when I work with a lot of families, let's say someone's loved one, daughter, sons, seeking treatment, and the parents or the loved ones are confused of why do they act a certain way emotionally, and what I do have to tell them is you have to remember, right, is that on some level they are functioning emotionally to some degree or developmentally, cognitively at some earlier period in life. And it's not uncommon, especially if they experience some trauma, that you have to work with them on some degree on that developmental age that they were stuck at, like a 12-year-old emotions, and you have to understand that person on that level. For example, a 12-year-old can need immediate gratification. Sometimes there's less patience. Sometimes they're impulsive in their decision making, or maybe they get triggered easily emotionally. Yeah. And this person could be 25 years old, and the parents are looking from them at a 25-year-old and what they should be, or what their perspective of how they should be responding. And so you got to remember, this 12-year-old, your 12-year-old son, for instance, right, was going through some traumatic event. And so sometimes to reintegrate them, we have to meet them at that level in those areas where they're struggling with, and so they can reintegrate and learn those skills. So a lot of what we do is skill development. Skill development, skills are things that we can work on. Dribbling a basketball is a skill, assuming that the more you work on it, the better you're going to get at it. Right?
Yeah.
But a lot of what we do are skills, and for them recognizing their own emotions and coping is really critical. So, but yeah, absolutely, you see that. And it's funny because as you were talking about some of those things that you see, this is kind of a side note. I grew up in Ohio, by the way, and in Ohio, we go to school together, starting from kindergarten to 8th grade. And so I went to this Catholic school. And when I tell people now, they laugh. A few years ago, we had our 8th grade reunion, right? No one, it's usually high school, usually it's college, but I go back to my 8th grade reunion. And when I went back there, it's like none of us have changed, so to speak. It doesn't matter whether you're 80 years old or something. There's still that core person that you see. The jokes were the same, the idiosyncrasies, the quirks that we all. So there's a difference between that.
Yeah,
that there's
yeah.
like
like their personality.
Yeah, my best friends, right, from childhood, from Ohio. When we get together, it is the same jokes, the same little stuff that we do. So there's a difference between that we all can probably relate to, and of course that part where, man, you still talk like that, or it's like this man, have you integrated or growth? I know what you're talking about. So there is a difference between that. I do believe there's a core part of us, whether it be our personality. So you talk about personality. Personality is as a consistent trait. Typically, as personality, we say sometimes our personality is about 10 to 12 years of age. There's these personality characteristics that are pretty ingrained. Not to say that we can't evolve and our personality can change at some point, but usually, that's why the childhood and adolescent years are critical, is because around that age is when our personalities are solidified. Personality characteristic could be something like our level of extroversion and introversion. Right? Mm-hmm. Where we get our energy. Do I get from the external extroversion, or do we get from internal introversion? Typically, that's pretty stable at an earlier time in years. May it change a little bit in our careers and work? Yeah, but our natural tendencies can be pretty set at that early point in life. And so I thought you brought up some good words with personality and that, but I did want to differentiate that, because I don't want people thinking like you're talking to your friends that you've known all year and like, man, you haven't grown up. Yeah. And if that's the case,
Still telling dick jokes, man.
Well, honestly, my best friend, my brother, my cousin, we all grew up together, and we have like a thread. And some of the jokes, it's like they haven't evolved. Yeah. So I don't want anyone to think out there.
Yeah, no. Well, with guys, we kind of the humor among guys kind of stays in the same, let's say, genre. Yeah. It stays in the same genre.
It's still. We just had a get together last night, and we were talking about in the genre and the stuff. Is still the same, but no, that's not that maybe there's some inner child there, but
yeah, you know what? To be honest, I mean, not to be honest, but I mean, I didn't mean to say to be honest, but to share with you is that even in the jiu-jitsu community, I've done jiu-jitsu most of my life at this point, right? Yeah. The majority of my life. There's always gay jokes. There's always, and not gay jokes making fun of gay. Yeah. But gay jokes about someone being gay or being gay with some, hey, when I had your back, did you feel the connection we felt? Like,
people eye connection, looking at me in the eyes.
That is never, and people from, young adults to all the way to all ages, we all joke about that. I don't know, maybe it's just, I guess it's just a genre of humor that kind of stays in there. But the people who are joking, you have everything from police, teachers, the freaking, we do it. Everything.
And jokes and laughter, that's the way we connect, right? Yeah. And through humor. But on a serious note, yes, absolutely. that stuff can reveal. And what you were saying was really important. Your friend, or not, sorry, the person that you were in a relationship with, you said she recognized it, and that's something that we'll definitely talk about. Acknowledgement that it's there, and not just inner child stuff, and anything is critically important for facilitating change. Right? We have to acknowledge that something is not right, and sometimes we do that on our own through self-introspection. Sometimes they're aha moments, or sometimes someone has to tell you that. Your buddy says, hey, man, do you realize, hey, you kind of have a problem with drinking? Or, hey, do you realize that you kind of are angry at stuff? And so,
or sometimes even a life event.
A life event,
Like you're in jail, like, how did I end up here? And then then, but it all goes back to what you say. Then you look inwards.
You look inwards, and kind of how I work with families. Actually, you mentioned that strategizing. Some of the best people that we've gotten help for years and years or decades worth of struggle with, be substance abuse or non-diagnosis of a condition, is where they have to hit, proverbially, we say rock bottom, right? But rock bottom is where you can't dig anymore, or you're up. I call it the point of desperation, where you're left with just few options, and that's where some of the best insights and unfortunately, it's sometimes they're jailed, they're homeless, they're divorced, or they lose custody of their kids, and it's those moments where they make a decision where, man, something's not right.
The layman's term for that is rock bottom.
Yes, rock bottom. That's what I was saying. That's what I was just saying. That's the proverbial, very popular in the AA arena, but I like to use a point of desperation.
Point of desperation.
Because
when we're intense.
Yeah. Because when we're desperate, right? What do? Fight, flight, or freeze. And that's what I actually strategize with families, how to some way, when someone's resisting help, how do you leverage them into a point of desperation? I know it's intense, but that's one of the key strategies that I've seen be most effective for those people who are resistant, don't think they need help, is you have to put them in some level of desperation.
There's a correlation that I've seen from the different relationships I've had with romantic, friendship, family, just all of the whole spectrum. And I don't know if this is just a correlation. I don't know if it's the root cause of this behavior, but I've noticed that people that have a lot of, let's say, trauma, childhood trauma, as adults, they lie a lot. And I'm not saying lie like they're dishonest. And dishonest, not like trying to get you to buy a car that's a piece of crap, but they just lie about anything, like stuff that you don't even need to lie about. And I've seen personally a correlation, but I don't know if that's the actual cause. But are those linked, trauma person and being a dishonest person? Not that I'm a saint. I think everyone has lied at some point, but there seems to be like I know people that just lie. Like, how was your weekend? Oh, dude, I went out to Lake Tahoe, caught a giant bass, and blah. Like the whole story's fake, and they just lie for no reason. And it's just are those two connected?
They could be.
So
lying is a form of a coping skill, a coping mechanism or defense mechanism. I believe that humanly we're not naturally liars. I think lying is just one form of many type of coping skills. So coping skill is...
I think we're naturally liars. I don't mean, you know better. I agree with you, but I've always believed that we're naturally liars. I know I'm throwing you off. The reason why, sorry to interrupt, the reason why is I've seen little infants lie. And where'd you learn? Like, they'll blame the other one.
Yes, and that in some form is a coping mechanism.
But how they figure that out?
They either role model or they just learn it. They just innately learn it, that it's as a defense mechanism. So if I can clarify, I believe, right, is any system or any living organism, what's its goal? To achieve
survival, live, thrive.
Yes, absolutely, but also to achieve balance, or you call it homeostasis or equilibrium. I believe that. And what takes us out of homeostasis or equilibrium is some form of stress, right? And stress isn't bad, It's, stress, moderate, mild to moderate levels of stress is actually good. Me, stressing a little bit about what I have to do in a couple hours, that's a good thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
a
so
motivator.
it's a motivator. And so, but what brings us back to balance is sometimes these coping mechanisms, and sometimes there's healthy coping mechanisms, right? Whether it be meditation, mindfulness techniques, therapy, exercise, jujitsu, so forth. And sometimes there's unhealthy coping mechanisms like a substance, avoidance, anger, and lying to bring back that balance. And so, yeah, I do believe lying is a form of that. And so, well, why do we lie? Understand the motivations is probably to avoid some type of discomfort or pain, right? Is if someone's how's your day going, right? If they're gonna lie, means hey, they're not gonna talk to me. I don't want to tell them about my current trauma or a divorce I'm going through or my financial struggles. Actually, if I can mention this, during my graduate school years, there was a research study that talked about lying. So most studies out there are freshmen, undergraduates, right? And so what they did is missing some details here and there, but essentially they would have people go into a room, a student, and they're hooked up to monitor their pulse levels, their sweat, their eye movements, and so forth. And so on the screen there, they would have two items, and their job was to estimate its value, price value. And so they would press a button underneath here. And what they noticed over time is when they exaggerated the value of it, they would get more points. I think there was a point system. And so what they found was that more people were lying about the value of that product. Let's say it's a bar of soap. There's it's $3 or is it $15? And then ding, 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 as if they're being reinforced the right answer. But what they found in that study, that those people who lied, physiologically, they had some changes. Their pulse rate would go up and they would sweat more versus those people who were truthful. And so,
like a polygraph.
yeah, it's some indicator that lying isn't a natural thing. And to me, what I find is if someone's really good at lying, if you have no fluctuations in your pulse rate and sweating and you can say it, to me, that's concerning, is because you've developed a level of comfort and coping mechanism with that, and whether it be compulsive lying. And so in terms of back to what you're saying, are we natural tendency? Yeah, to some degree. I believe that there's a natural tendency to avoid pain and to survive, and lying is one way we do it.
That makes more sense. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, do you know what? That makes more sense because I just figure like, man, are we just born sinners like that? But it makes sense because the kid learned if I deflect the blame onto someone else, I might not get a spanking. I might not get the "don't you do that," whatever it is. Yeah.
I'm going through that with my 9-year-old son right now. So I have by the way, his name is Mini Bravo. My wife, who trains, is Eddie Brava.
Eddie Brava.
And then my daughter, who's...
what color? Eduarda. Eduarda Brava.
Yeah. She's Eddie Brava. My son's Mini Bravo. And I'm going through that stage of lying. And lying is not a bad thing, so to speak, right? We don't want to... Sometimes our natural thing is don't lie. But we have to understand that that's a process for them. And for kids, saying, hey, what is this truth there? What do you think is the right thing to say? Why do you feel like you needed not to tell the truth? And to help them work through it, because the first thing we say is stop lying. And sometimes they don't learn why they're doing it and what's the correct action to take and what are some different options. And so he's going through that, from simple things like did you eat your food to anything like that, and it's just his natural tendency to avoid something and to avoid discomfort and that. And so I just had an incident with him the other day, and so I sit down with him and try to process that through him is the benefits of being truthful and honest up front versus lying, and what does he get from that. And so it's really important for parents to recognize that that on many levels that is a natural progression for especially kids.
Is it a healthy trajectory to, let's say, how old is your son? 9, you said?
Yep.
Okay, so won't use him, but say as a 9-year-old in general progresses to 15, I'm pretty sure they're gonna lie at 15. I lied so much when I was 15, dude. I would lie sometimes just for the challenge, like lie to a girl, or I'm whatever. Just mostly was lying to girls. I don't know why in particular. And as you get older, say he's 15, then 25, 35, 45,
Mm-hmm.
should he be starting to become more honest as he gets older? Is that a sign of like intellectual wisdom and growth as we age? Does that make sense?
Ideally, yeah.
I mean, ideally, is that the ideal trajectory that should occur for a person?
Absolutely. I mean, that's just my belief,
Yeah,
whether it be
of course.
humanistically, developmentally, spiritually. And you mentioned 15-year-old. I have a 15-year-old daughter. And so deciphering, what's truth and not for her as well,
Sit her down, put her hook up to that machine they did the study with.
I might have to.
So why are you perspiring?
Or just feel the pulse like they did in Meet the Parents. But yeah, it's hard. But yeah, my belief is absolutely, I believe honesty speaks a lot about things like authenticity, right?
Yeah.
And so forth. I mean, if you look at most modalities, whether it be 12-step recovery, step 4 is, being honest, right? You're identifying your character defects, your resentments, people have hurt you, people you've hurt. And so in mostly any religion is that honesty, that authentic self is critically important. And so, yes, I do believe as we age to realize the importance of honesty in your true self. That's where it is really who's my true authentic self versus my false self, which is spoken to Deepak Chopra, who talks about that true self versus that false self. That false self is the one that kind of subscribes to people's expectations of what I'm supposed to be, and the authentic and true self. And so yes, I believe honesty. I have found that in my life. It's better to be honest up front, take the hits, dealing with that. But my life has been much easier, and clients much easier when they're just honest up front.
Yeah, and see, this is my thing with honesty, and this is what I believe. But I'm an open book. You're the expert, so I'm just sharing my probably weird, I don't know, point of view on honesty. Is that I've been doing a lot of self-reflection, looking inward, but also looking outward and looking at, red flags, quote unquote, red flags, and any type of relationship and so forth. And I've come to realize that when I'm at my age, which we'll kind of keep it classified right now, even though I spilled it out last podcast on accident because someone asked me, but like I'm in my 40s.
Okay.
When someone lies in their 40s, to me, it's more shocking or more irritating than when I know a 20-year-old lies. Like, man, he's funny, dude. Like, it's like, better. Like, I know this kind of goes against the whole inner child and someone growth and all that other stuff, but it seems to hit harder or be more unacceptable when someone's older and they lie. Do you follow my line of thinking?
Yeah.
Is that is it because we have expectations that you should have matured and become wiser over the years? Is that what that is?
It could be, yeah. Or we look to people, generally speaking, as, yeah, you're right, getting wiser, right? Getting wiser and being in touch with their values and so forth. And kids look up to that. And so they want to emulate that. They're role models. And so I believe that. I believe that as we age, the hope is we are progressing. We're being our better versions of ourselves. And it's very hard to be your best version if you're not being authentic and honest. And I believe that is the most critical element for change is when I work with anybody is I tell them you have to be honest with yourself and others. Because if you're not, right, you become multi-layered, you become complex, and of course, you don't know what's truth anymore. And so honesty is the very first thing that I tell people. I mean, I actually have an acronym for people to get healthier and better in their life in recovery or what have you. And honesty is the very most important element and the most consistent element or robust across all that differentiates people or clients who get better, who progress, and those who do not.
Yeah. Can you just reminded me of something. Can you tell as a therapist, like say you have someone, you've been seeing them 6 months, a client, or regularly 6 months, because sometimes people disappear, right? Can you start telling like, hey, this person's not there's something missing here. Do you ever get that? Because I always wonder, because I've known people who've gone to therapy and they have lied to the therapist. And as a therapist, can you pick up on that? Do you eventually figure it out? Go, you don't confront them, I don't think, but maybe like you pick up, okay, yeah,
you can't confront them, by the way.
Oh, you can't?
That's the whole reason why they're in therapy. For me, by the way, in therapy, if they love you too much, they like you too much, for me, I'm not doing something right. Right. If I leave competition class on Saturday and say, oh my God, that was so fun, something's not right. If I'm smashing everybody in the gym, something's not right. Right. And so,
Yeah. You should be leaving going, why do I do this?
unless you're Neiman, Gracie,
Yeah.
or
No, no, we got to remember, there's animals in there. The no-gi class on Wednesday, remember, we have UFC, Bellator, collegiate wrestlers.
I'm not there on that day.
Oh,
but,
man.
Okay.
Shark Tank.
Okay.
It's a Shark
So
Tank.
for me, though, read me at my belt and my years, if I'm smashing everyone in the gym, something's not right to me. Right?
Yeah, you're like, I'm the big fish.
Yeah. Yeah. And so take me back. Where were we?
Oh, yeah. We're talking about as a therapist, do you recognize when someone's, let's call it concealment or deception? Can you pick up on that as a therapist?
I think as a therapist, I've developed a heightened sensitivity to that. And it's not just one indicator, right? Sometimes there's obvious indicators, right? Whether it be eye contact and so forth. And sometimes it's a presenting energy. But sometimes it's inconsistencies in their stories, right, that you look at. But sometimes there's people who it's hard, right? And I always tell people, hey, I can only help you as much as you tell me, right? At the end of the day, because this is a true story, and one of my therapy groups in the substance abuse arena residential facility I worked at, there was like 6 people in the group. It was a 9 a.m. group, and we had range of people from 60 years old to as low as 18 years old. There was 5 of them, males and females, and they were sitting in a semicircle waiting for me. And the first thing they asked me, right, 9 in the morning, my brain's not even turned on yet, Dr. Brian, how do we know if we're being honest or not? I'm like, man, they just unloaded me on a Monday with a big question like that. And so I just said, okay, I put my stuff down, and I said, let me think about it a little bit. I told them, right, and just to let you know the range, we had someone in law enforcement who was a grandparent to a mom to some early college, high school, 2 kids and so forth. And so that was just a range. And they were all asking that question, and they were like in a deep level of thought, like they were asking it beforehand.
Wait, hold on. Honest with themselves?
Just being honest. How do we know if we're being honest?
Oh, got
right.
it.
And so I sat down. I said, you know what? One thing, I know this is kind of a common question, but the only person who will really truly know if you're being honest or not is yourself. But what I told them is this. I said, you can come into this group, right? You can come into this group and say whatever you want to avoid being confronted or having an uncomfortable topic come into place. The reality is, come 9:50, I'm on to my next group. And you've missed an opportunity. It's just you and your, what I call disease, or whatever that disease may be, to look in the mirror at night. That's it. I go on to my next group. And so you've lost the opportunity. You've deprived yourself of the opportunity to get better. So what I do is what I'm telling them is I'm putting the onus responsibility on them, right? Because a lot of people sometimes will come into therapy and it's like, yeah, I don't want to talk to him about it. I don't want to mention that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to go down that, right? And I tell them the responsibility is on you. You're the one losing out on an opportunity to get better.
Wow.
And that's kind of how I work as a coach, right? Is over the years, my model has changed. I'll get people all the time said, "Hey, Dr. Brian, I think I can manage my my marijuana, right? Because I was doing wax and dabs. For people who don't know that, it's a highly concentrated form of THC." And in the form of a waxy substance. I think I could smoke my marijuana. Or, hey, Dr. Brian, I think I could drink my beer because vodka was my issue. Or I don't think I need to take my medication when I leave treatment because I have enough skills now. I said, hey, your old lifestyle is waiting for you right outside that door, right? That's it. You're more than welcome to engage and get back on that. My job is to coach you and give you an option, a preview of what another life can look like. Right. But you're more than welcome to engage in that lifestyle. But I can't promise you that you're going to have people like your family going to support that lifestyle. But you're more than welcome to engage in that same lifestyle. What I'm doing them is I'm giving them options and choices.
And to add to that, and that lifestyle might not end well.
It might not end well. And they know that, the level of clients we deal with. And so sometimes what I say, they still have gas in their tank. They're not ready. They're not ready to get better. They're not ready to get done. They're not ready to acknowledge whatever they're dealing with and traumas. And so what it really does is because when you tell someone, I believe the human condition, when you tell them something they cannot do, they resist. If I tell someone, hey, you can never drink again, you can never smoke again, the resistance comes up, right? What I'm going to do is, hey, you're more than welcome. I want that vodka, that marijuana, that fentanyl. I want that on your tool belt, right? Because it's always going to be an option for you. It really is. What I want to do is I want to give you other options on that tool belt.
Yeah.
I want that fentanyl, that alcohol to be way back there. So it's harder to reach, but I want you to have options. That's it. That's all we can do. But when you tell someone what they can't do, I mean, look what happened. It's no judgment on the COVID and the pandemic, but look what happened when we told people to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Get the vaccine, don't get a vaccine. Social distance, don't. Man, look what happened. I think the pandemic, although very challenging and, I lost a couple of family members through it, is that there was a lot of silver linings. I believe in that. There's a lot of learning lessons, social dynamics, and understanding, and that's one of them. Is when you tell the human condition what they can and cannot do, we resist. And so you give it. Now we have an option. Well, yeah, you can go get a vaccine or not. You can wear your mask or not, and so forth. And so now we have options, and that's the same model that I use with a lot of people. And honesty is one of those things. So back to the honesty part. You can be honest with me or not, but I care about you and I want to help you. But if you're not going to be honest with me, right, there's only so much I can do, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna force honesty out of you, but I'm gonna tell you that it's critically important. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
This is a safe place. I'm here to coach you to get better, and honesty is the most critical element in the impetus for change.
Yeah. And the interesting about honesty too is I think that even though your clients asked you that, I think all of them know. It's just there's a certain level of denial that floats in there because this has happened to me, and I've witnessed this happen to other people where that they've lied to themselves about something that maybe they played more of a role in that wasn't good. And as maybe time passed, like years, it kind of is like, man, and that's when you get those apologies, like, hey, hey, Brian, it's me, Kenny. You remember, and they start confessing, and they know. It's just there's just a wall up, and they can't own it at the time, because that type of question, what's honesty? I thought you were going to say something like, well, if it actually happened, and you tell it how it happened, that's honesty. But you're right. It is beyond that. Yeah. It is beyond that.
And to take it further, what I tell people a lot is sometimes they'll be honest about certain things. And so I don't know if you can see here. So I have like a weigh scale, like I'm in a group of people. And honesty, they all relate to being dishonest. And what they correlate is, well, if I'm honest with a lot of things, therefore I'm going to get better. And so like I have a weigh scale. I tell them, I said, okay, let's say, for example, all these things you're being honest about. You're in treatment here for 45 days. And all these things you want to be honest about money you stole, the drugs you used, the people you've cheated on, the people you lied to. But let's say there's like 100 things here. And let's say there's 1 to 2 things here. Maybe it's a trauma, abuse. Maybe you harmed someone. Maybe you abused someone or something of that nature. I ask them, what's the thing that's going to continue to take you out? Take you out meaning where you find yourself struggling, where you maybe relapse on a substance, or you find yourself in a depressive episode. I go, what is the thing that's going to keep taking you out? This thing that you're being honest about 100 things, or this 1 to 2 things you're not being honest about? And they always invariable will know this. I said, that's what's critically important. You have to be honest about those things, because if you don't acknowledge and start honest, I call, because you harbor secrets, right?
Yeah.
And I believe secrets, when you harbor secrets, especially things like that of traumas or things in your life, it turns into resentments, right? Resentments are unresolved anger, and almost always it points back at yourself, no matter what you've been through. And I call secrets the termites of our inner being, or the asset of our souls. It will literally eat away at you. And it's
yeah. I was crossing my mind. You jumped into my next question.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, like, what is it about lies that eats at us? Like, people there's people that have turned themselves in. Hey, I committed a murder 20 years ago, and I just got to they know they're going to go to prison. They might get the death penalty. They'll just do it. They'll just spill it like it eats them. Or they're dying, or they're sick, and they'll go deathbed confessions. Yeah. They got to get it off their chest. Yes. What is that?
Well, like I told you earlier about that study, it's I don't believe it is our natural human inclination is to lie. Is because that study alone, there was physiological responses. There's there's heart rate, there's sweating. And so to repress something, we think just because we don't think about something or we've forgotten about it, it's no longer having an impact. Like secrets, like, hey, I locked that away. You know what? Someone says I was abused as a 5-year-old, but you know what? I'm 55 years old now. I'm happy. I'm successful in my career. I don't think about that anymore. And they think that it's just locked away. Just because you don't think about something doesn't mean it's gone. What I call it is like it's the file in your computer that's running in the background. It's that virus that you're not aware of, but it's affecting your whole computer system. And the same thing with lying is it's back there somewhere. And it takes literally effort, believe it or not, to keep it in that closet, to keep it in that corner. It literally takes emotional, physical effort to do that. We just don't realize it because if we repress it so much, we don't believe that there's energy doing that. And so coming clean, you know, when we come clean, there's a level of lightedness that comes with that.
Yeah.
And I get all the time where people say, my God, I've been building that in my head for decades. It's not as bad as I thought. In many cases, like, man, I was putting that in my head for so long, and I should have been honest about this thing long time ago. And because we do build it up in our head a lot worse than it is. But yeah, I mean, it is, I believe that's what I call it. I call it the acid of our inner being. And those things will take you out. So you have to be honest. That means you have to scream that to the world, those one or two things. That means you have to tell every single person on the plane and in a competition. By the way,
hey, I killed someone. Okay, girl, let's go shake hands first.
yeah, but it doesn't mean you have to. But you have to. I believe you have to be honest with at least one living person in this world, right? We can be honest with our higher power and God. You can tell your dog and cat and be honest, truthful honesty. But in all seriousness, I believe you have to give it to someone in this world because you can get things like validation, affirmation, and feedback, whether it be a priest, a pastor, a coach, a friend, a sponsor.
Or the person you wronged.
Or the person you've wronged, which is, you know, another level of what we call the amends process to make better. It's a really important part of healing. But I believe, because I get a lot of clients like that, like, well, gosh, you know, I tell I pray to God all the time, and I'm honest about that. I said, that's great. And I'm not ever, I think that's huge. But you got to give it to someone here. There's just something about giving it to a living person, right? That's very healing because you can get that affirmation, like I said, validation, and actually, in many ways, feedback. And so that's my belief in taking honesty to the next level.
That's interesting you say that because you touched on how, like, you know, like when I was 5 years old, I was abused or whatever, and it's playing in the background of your computer. That was 100% me. That was 100% me till maybe 5-6 months ago. And it's crazy because I there's times where I would actively push it down, but then you kind of get into this rhythm of holding it down where it doesn't feel like you're holding it down. Like it's you forget. That's what it is. You forget it. You know, you forget it's there. But I am holding it down. Like there's certain things that might try to make it bubble up, but I'm like, no. Get back in your box, you know, and I might even put, you know, some weights on top of it to hold it down or try to stay busy. But the crazy thing is that when it comes out, like in my case, like I can only speak for mine because everyone's unique, like you said. You know what daisy chained is when something's daisy chained?
Fill me in.
Daisy chained is like I use this. I'm gonna use two analogies just to kind of cover the base. Like, say if you're ghetto, right? This is called daisy chaining. I called it. Well, it's a slang, not ghetto. It's slang. Like, say if you don't have a long enough extension cord to go across to plug in your Christmas tree, right? So you get a power strip.
Oh, got it.
And then you plug a power strip into that power strip, and then you put an extension cord in there. Then you put another. Like it's daisy chained. It's actually a fire hazard to do it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but they're all linked.
Yeah.
So if someone turns off one of the power strips, they're all shutting down because they're all linked. Everything's linked.
Got it.
So the traumas, like the stuff I was holding down, they were all daisy chained. So when one came out, it brought everything out. Like it brought like it's like the clown who pulls the handkerchiefs, and there's like more and more. It's like it's just it was flying out, and it's crazy because which is going to lead to my next question to you is that in my case it was coming out. It all came out and I couldn't put it back.
Yeah.
Does that happen to everyone eventually?
Well, that's one of the reasons why people don't want to do it. It's like this flood, this deluge of emotions that can't control it. And exactly that's what happened is you repressed it for so long, and it's these multi-layers, and that's where a lot of people are so afraid to open up that box. They're not afraid of what's going to come out of it and if they're going to be able to manage it. So yeah, absolutely. That's one of the biggest obstacles for people getting honest is that very reason. And so and that's where whether it be with therapy or something where sometimes, we call it opening up that valve is every once in a while, right? Acknowledging and whatever it is, because when you have accumulation, it's going to blow sooner or later.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah,
like, there has to be a moment of truth, right? Like where you're like, because I'm thinking there's no way you could just hold this down your whole life if you have a lot. There has to come a point where life circumstances, maybe some stressors, maybe a trigger come together. It's time to face the music, man.
Well, I do believe for most part we have a max point, a max threshold, right, where you can't do it anymore, right? In jiu-jitsu, right, there's a max threshold.
I don't have a max threshold in jiu-jitsu, by the way, but speak for yourself. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, but like how much you can take, right? When I first started, man, having some heavy person on me is a lot different than I am now, right? Is that at least I have a threshold of discomfort, right? But everyone has their max point. I believe that. I literally talk about.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So I'll remember that everyone.
When Neiman
Professor
sees
Neiman,
me,
this guy says he has no threshold, especially for leg pain.
Just be there when they wake me up.
And by the way, that threshold is trained, right? People think. Obviously, my 9-year-old son, Mini Bravo, his emotional, physical threshold is a lot different than mine and yours, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right? Our threshold is a lot different than someone who's in a special forces, like a Navy SEAL or someone. But they weren't literally born like that. I use this analogy all the time, is they've worked and developed that threshold. They literally trained for that threshold. And so, but that blowing up part is I believe everyone has their max point. Sooner or later, and that comes with lying as well. Is sometimes people leave this earth and never come clean, but many people they reach this stage of life where I believe whether it be spirituality or this crossing roads where they need to let it go, they need to give it up, and so. But yeah, that's what happened from what I'm gathering with you. Is it was just too much.
Yeah. See, lying is one type of pressure. Right, that's holding down. Like I have, like there's a lie that I still have. I'm not even gonna. I've asked God to forgive me for it, but let me deal with this lie real quick since we're here talking about them, because mine was traumas that were held down, and that's a different type of hold. Like a different type of what do you call it? What's the word you resilient? Not resilience. What's the thing you say? Like tolerance level.
Tolerance or threshold.
Holding down trauma threshold. It's for me. It's easier to hold down a lie than trauma, because trauma was so against your will and so freaking radioactive. That's a harder one. But like, there's a lie that I might as well say it now. I don't care. That I was dating a girl for a long time, and I was dating not a long time. It was like a friends with benefits, would date, break up. It was a highly dysfunctional high school relationship, and it's actually my son's mom, but never married her. Right? I cheated on her profusely, but I've always cheated. She has no idea, probably till now if she listens to this, and I always told myself I'm just going to take that to the grave. Till now. But my reasoning was
balance.
Yeah.
That was the 1 to 2 things.
Low. I feel lighter.
How do you
actually.
feel? You feel lighter?
I'm gonna go get on a scale. But no, I just thought, what is the benefit of bringing this up? But maybe that's my way of rationalizing, or maybe it's not that big of a lie, because we never like got married. We were just high school kids, and messing around, doing things we shouldn't have done, and had a kid. Should I say, hey, those gaps of months between breaking up and getting back together, I just always had other girls. you know, and I was like, what's the benefit? You know, I don't even know if she would, what's the point, you know? So that was my rationalization. It could totally, yeah, so that's the thing I was holding back, kind of stuttering.
Yeah.
See, you can't even see the awkwardness I feel even telling you this. And this happened decades ago. And I'm like, yeah, well, so I'm stuttering. But the trauma, the holding down the trauma one, I don't see, unless you unexpectedly die, I don't see how someone could actually hold that down, you know, because with trauma, with the threshold for trauma, it's always below the surface. You know it's there. You know it's there. And it's weird, like, you've even trained yourself, like with me, I even trained myself, if there is a trigger, there's been triggers throughout my life. I would say there's been triggers like yearly on certain things. I learned to just shut it down and just move on. Like, oh, I need to get outside today. Let me not work. Let me just go do it. And distract myself until I get it pushed back down. And then finally, the Day of Atonement, my psychological Yom Kippur, where it just you're just facing it, bro. It's coming out. So So going back to lying, traumas, holding those down, I think that's a whole nother thing. And this is a theory based on my own experience. No science behind this. This is just bro science. We'll call it bro science.
Yeah.
It seemed easier to deal with the trauma as a kid, because I could actually be like, I'll use a real example. I was beaten and like thrown downstairs as a kid. And I went to school like nothing happened.
Okay.
As an adult, someone would beat me and throw me down some stairs. I would be messed up. I'd be like, I'd be raging. But I literally just went on like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And continued on my life.
Yeah.
So it seemed easier. I don't know if our brains are wired or God put a mechanism in our adolescence just to protect us, because it's just too much to understand. So we just put it in our pocket.
Yep. You bring a lot of good points, and let me try to pick it apart. And number one, when you talk about adults, right, is there's that max point where lying. We have a lot of distractions, right? Sometimes the coping mechanism will work hard, right? People back to balance. So let me get here. You might have to reel me back in again, but back to achieving balance is that when we're in balance. Remember, we talk about imbalance, and that whenever someone's is overcompensating for something or doing something extra. Remember, we always talk about every system, I believe, moves, or living organism works towards homeostasis or equilibrium. I believe whenever we are engaging in a behavior that is sort of an outlier behavior, like overworking, right? Overgoing to the gym, overdoing something or underdoing something, we're compensating for something, right? Usually, right? We're compensating. And so sometimes we're people overworking. They work. What are they compensating for? That's one of the things where people can repress these memories or these traumas. What happens, I think, later in life is, for example, when those coping mechanisms aren't there, you're not working anymore, or you don't have that sport anymore, where, let's say, for example, someone's a professional athlete, a football player, and that's their life, or someone's an actor or something. And that's been a sort of that ability to cope, or some levels mask. But when you take that major coping mechanism away from someone, that stuff starts to surface. And I'm wondering if that's what on some level what happens to a lot of people is they don't have that go-to coping mechanism anymore. And I think maybe sometimes in life, whether it be in their middle age, where things start to settle a little bit, or they don't have those things in place, whether it be kids, right? For a lot of times, if you're a parent, during their early years, you're busy. You don't have time to slow down. And I see that happen a lot, where you have people where there's been a major life change, like they're married and they have a partner and that's not there, or they're not working, they're retired, or they lose a job, or their kids flew off to adult life or college and they don't have those mechanisms. So that's some of the reasons why sometimes these things surface. But you mentioned also a good point of why kids seem to be resilient. And I do believe we are all resilient to some degree, and especially kids. But what happens a lot that I see are a lot of these kids fly under the radar. It's because we just make this assumption that they're coping well, right? Because now there's a lot of ways where they can cope, whether it be school, sports, friends, social media, gaming. And we just say, oh my God, he's doing fine with the divorce or the loss of his uncle because he's laughing and fun and he's always on gaming and laughing. But that's why a lot of people fly under the radar, right? And kids also, they might not know how to express it. They might not be internalizing it. Maybe they're in denial. And later on, you see that surface later on in life when they don't have gaming anymore or they don't have high school sports anymore to distract them from that. But yes, I do believe we are all resilient. Kids are resilient. But what happens is a lot of times we find ways to cope and that stuff gets pushed in the corner. And when those things aren't readily available to cope, they start to gradually surface, sometimes in a big way.
Yeah.
And so that's where I like to tell parents as well is like I still hear that all the time. Well, I have a client whose uncle passed away suddenly. Oh, I think she's fine. I mean, she's out with her friends. She's always on making videos and so forth. And that's not the case. That she's just doesn't know how to deal with it. She doesn't want to acknowledge it. She doesn't know how to process her emotions. And she has a coping mechanism readily available. And that's what happens. A lot of these kids fly under the radar. And then those stuff start to surface later on in their adult life.
Yeah. One thing too that thank you for sharing that, man. That's deep. And I'm pretty sure what you have to say right now is it's hitting a lot of people. It's hitting me head on. And I remember even the traumas. I remember seeing like growing up, I had different caregivers, people taking care of me. It's a long story. I won't go. This podcast episode isn't about my life, but I had to live with different people for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of my caregivers, the people I was living with, he got in an argument. He was very violent. And he got in an argument with his wife, and he beat her up in front of me. I've never seen anything like that, right? And I mean, he beat her up bad where he beat her up and he started jumping on her back, like how you jump on a trampoline.
Yeah.
Like he beat her up and she's on the ground, he jumped on her back. And I remember I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know how to process that. But as a kid, it gave me like a crazy, when you first compete in think of your first jiu-jitsu tournament. I just stood there with that feeling. And I felt like that probably for months after. And I would go to school to interact but that thing was sitting in my stomach.
Wow.
And I was like, now when I know what trauma is, I'm like, I got traumatized by seeing violence that didn't even occur to me. But I guess the dynamics, I was under their roof. This is the traditional family hierarchy of, the head of the household and the wife. And then see that occur. Yeah, but going back to kids, as a kid, it just sat in my stomach. I didn't even, if someone had asked me, hey, how you doing, Kenny? I'd be like, great. I would play dodgeball, whatever. But my stomach was just like holding it. And there's a book, I've never read it, but someone told me to read a book called The Body Keeps Score.
Yep.
And I think it deals with stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because that thing hit me right in the stomach.
Trauma, yeah.
Yeah.
The body keeps the score, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how it manifested for you, manifesting meaning how it shows up. And it can manifest in other ways, right? That to an IBS, right? Irritable bowel syndrome, to anger, right? To anger, to resentment, to avoidance, to self-worth, to hypersexuality, to substance use, to jumping from one relationship to the next.
Yeah.
And and that's how it did. And it took a lot of effort, as you can imagine, that tightness.
Oh, yeah.
It took a lot of effort just to do that. And
always had to go to the bathroom because my stomach was just...
Well, yeah, IBS, that's a very common characteristic for people with things, with issues like that, is it's a high level of distress. And so I'm glad you worked through it. I know it sounds like you've done so much work for yourself.
Oh, I had to, bro.
Yeah, you had to.
I had to. I've you know what EMD, you're familiar with EMDR. I did say for this situation from months ago, I don't know, almost 40 hours.
Wow. Yeah.
Normally people, I think they do like 90 minutes of it once a week. I was doing 4 hours every 3 days. It was just that. That was I was pretty because everything was daisy chained and there was a lot. It was complex trauma, so it was kind of
complex trauma.
Yeah, so it was with PTSD. So it, like it's occurring.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, I'm a million times better because I couldn't talk about things like this, because everything's linked. So one thing, talk about one thing, all this other freaking craziness. So.
Well, one thing if I could say, you, like I said, you're the stuff you're sharing. I appreciate you sharing a lot of these things, and that's of course with the podcast and how many people you are really helping. Because what you're doing is you're giving people permission to talk about things. Like here you are, strong male, black belt, and
attractive,
what you do. Very attractive. Yes, thank you.
Not the first to tell me that.
Are you lying again?
Yes, I am. Well, my mom.
Is your stomach churning?
Yeah. My pulse just went up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see all the people at HQ who are going to watch this podcast. They're going to have some jokes for you.
Yeah, but actually, we have to do a part 2 of this because we didn't really touch on some of the things that we want to.
Yeah.
But I wanted it. We were in such a good flow of what we're talking about. We actually went over, and because I'm looking at your watch upside down. I've been tracking time that way.
Oh,
yeah.
I compete in 3 hours.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but I think we're supposed to finish 20 minutes ago, I think, right? Yeah, 11:30.
For me, well, we can keep going.
Oh, we keep going?
That's what I was very thinking I didn't. I was going to bring my gi here just in case, but we can go.
Okay.
I don't like to get to tournaments. I used to get there 4 hours early and do all these shenanigans and
watch other people.
And just psych myself up. And all I found is it's just an adrenaline dump.
Yeah.
Right. I found that out last year. I'd get so pumped, listen to my music in my headphones, and then it's got delayed and there's an adrenaline pump. So literally now I just walk out there like I'm literally in class, like a normal class. I treat them just like a partner, but times 10. In terms of the aggressiveness.
We treat him as a visitor from a different school. Just kidding. Kidding.
But so I don't mind. No.
Okay. Well, I'll leave you in charge then of tracking time.
Yeah, sure.
I've been watching the clock, and I was like, okay, let me go a few more minutes here. But you're dropping some gems, so I didn't want to.
Let's go and So let's say because I still have to go back home. We can go for like 15, 20 more minutes.
All right, sweet. All right, cool, man.
But one thing, if you don't mind, what I was going to say is for you and listeners, and I see this a lot, is no one is ever defined by any event or events in their life. Specifically, even good events, right? If you ride that wave of a good event in your life, right? We have to evolve and change. I always remember Al Bundy. Remember who Al Bundy was?
Yeah.
Married with Children.
He used to be at the tournaments. He used to compete in jiu-jitsu.
He's a black belt. He's tough.
Yeah.
And but if you remember, his thing is, what was his glory, right? He was
it football?
Yeah, he was a quarterback football, and there's just one game that his life surrounded that one game, and that was it, right? And so, but even traumatic events, I tell people there's no event or events that's ever your defining moment. It may be a defining moment to a degree, but it doesn't define who you are. It is just one footnote in your life, right? And I like to use a lot of metaphors in the work that I do, well, I'm not gonna ask your age. I'll give my age. I'm 51 years old, and so I'm in chapter 51 in my life.
You look good for 51, bro.
Thank you.
You look very good, and I'm sincerely saying that. Like you look 20 years younger, but I'm pretty sure you get that often.
20 years, 31, really?
Yeah, you could pass. Yeah, definitely. When we go back to the gym, let's ask some of these people their ages. You'll be shocked, because Black and Asian don't crack, and then you're fit. I mean, dude,
thank you.
Yeah, you'll be surprised that some people that you thought were older, they're not as old as you think they are. But,
Can I tell your listeners what I've been engaging in that maybe be helping that?
Yeah, of course, dude.
Yeah,
listen,
it's no product. No, I'm not dropping product. Yeah. But bone broth, man. I've been drinking a lot of bone broth, and it's known for collagen and stuff. So I've been drinking that.
Yeah.
So I drink a lot of that. I drink it because I do telesessions from home, and that's when I drink 1 cup of that with lemon and honey, and I think it's been helping, man.
Oh yeah. Well, I take peptides.
Peptides, there you go.
Yeah. I've been doing that for a while. So and I even noticed my skin's been clearing up. Like the elasticity's like either coming back or what. But no, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. It's funny that It's funny how we go from jujitsu, me going to tournament to nice skin.
Nice skin. No, but dude,
Well, thank you. Thank
you
you.
look very. I hope when I'm 51 that I'll look as good as you, because some people don't age well, and I've like, this had to have happened to you. You have friends from high school on social media.
I am not on social media at the moment, but I plan to.
Does your wife?
No.
No. Okay. Well, if you ever go, I'm pretty sure the high school you went to has a website, and then they'll have like classes. You can actually go into reconnect, right? I guarantee you're going to look up people and go, "Holy crap! What happened to you?"
Well, here's the thing. If I may share, is that very proud that my high school is St. John Bosco. If anyone that don't know, we are currently ranked #1 in the nation for football, and
says we like you're still a student there. This guy.
we.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, Bundy. Al Bundy. No, I'm just joking.
And so what happened is my good friend, we were planning to watch. They played Mater Dei the other day. St. John Bosco won, and great rivalry. And we planned to go to one of the playoff games. And so we're thinking about that, right? And seeing all these high school people that we've been seeing for a while. So it's funny you bring that up. Is we're already planning to go to so presumably they're going to make a playoff game in the CIF, and so. My brother and my best friend and his brother, we planned to all coordinate and go to one of these football games, which was I graduated in 1990, and so it's going to be good to see a lot of people. But thank you for that as well. And
yeah.
So,
well, when you go, no, do the social media route too, please.
yes.
I recommend doing it. I know you're coming out with a book, so I would recommend doing that, because the people who show up to the game is probably a small percentage, and those are people who want to be seen, personally or whatever. But when you go to social media, it's surprising, man. Like some of them are, not to go dark here, but some of it is tragic. You're like, man, this person was the quarterback, or the most likely to succeed, and it's a mess. Like one time, have you been to your high school reunions?
No, I plan to. I have not.
Look at you, man. You're just big time in Southern California, huh? Just big time.
Well, I went to my 8th grade reunion back in Ohio.
Okay, yeah, well, there you, yeah.
It was actually on the kid you not. It was in a barn.
Back.
It was in a barn. We had it in a barn. They made the barn look nice, and it was awesome.
My buddy got married in a barn, and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
It was very scenic and very nice. But I remember my high school reunion, because my school was in the hood, so you're to me, I wanted to see what happened, the aftermath, right? Mm-hmm. So most of the guys didn't show up, right? Because one of them was actually in witness protection, and he contacted me. He's out of state. He contacted you.
What kind of witness protection if he's contacting you?
Exactly. No, he's breaking witness protection, but he's out of state. Yeah. I don't even know where he lives. Yeah. But he's just out of state. He got arrested for like major drug trafficking.
Wow.
And then told on everybody.
Yeah, I would not be telling a single soul.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I mean, he told people, then he's gone. No. Everyone in there, everyone knows he did it.
I know, but reaching out to you and he's a witness for what he did, and
well, everyone knows because he didn't go to jail anymore. He just disappeared.
Okay,
he's not in prison. Everyone else is in prison.
Got it.
Yeah, everyone knows that he did it. And so, but at the reunion, and this was the 10-year reunion, not the 20. This is the 10. We were talking, and like I had people in my class, like one girl, she was getting out of prostitution. Like she was a streetwalker. And we paid like some people who's coordinating, man, they don't even have enough money to come to the reunion. It's like, $80 or whatever. So a few of us pitched in, kind of helped them out. And I remember one of the girls, like, it just made me, I don't know what, this is just stuck in my head. We had like tri-tip, sir, whatever. One of the ladies took like a few bites of it. She's one that kind of lived on the streets, not as a ex-streetwalker. Mm-hmm. And then she put it in a napkin and put it in her purse, the tri-tip. And she was just saving, like just bagging it. And I just looked, and there's a girl named Renee. There's a girl named Renee who I went to school with. Renee is someone who makes fun of everyone and has no
filter.
Well, she has a filter. She knows when not to say it, but nothing's off limits.
Okay, got it.
You know what I'm saying? But Renee herself, she's a mess herself.
Yeah.
And so that makes it funnier because she makes fun of other people. And Renee gave me the look like, oh, we're going to talk about this later. And but yeah, so it's just amazing. I'm telling you, I'm saying that to say this is that when you connect with some of the people, but you went to a good school. So I'm pretty sure that most of them are successful. Someone like me, like if you went to a school in the hood, dude, it's like people were surprised that I went to college, which none of us were on track to do. I think there's a handful of us that went to college.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing was there was one guy who actually became a big time. I can't remember his name right now. I didn't hang out with him, but like someone on campus, you would talk to them. He's like a big time Hollywood movie producer, highly successful. So he came.
Wow.
But I think there wasn't a lot of success outside of that. Everyone, I mean, not the success. Success is they're functioning adults, they have families, some of them work for the city, but no one, the percentages were definitely lower, so I just kind of went down a rabbit hole on that. I don't know.
No, but it's an important chapter of our life, man. And going back there. And,
it was Trauma Fest, though. It's Trauma Fest. That's a bet. We'll call it Trauma Palooza. Like I'm pretty sure now in retrospect, looking at my life, my classmates, knowing the way we grew up, there's a lot of damaged people. There's a lot. I mean, we didn't have normal fights. We had fights in school, like true story. Like my friend, and I'm telling this because I have friends now who listen to this, so they'll know what I'm talking about. So I'll give some details for them. My friend who's in witness protection, his girlfriend at the time, she had been in jail so much at juvenile hall. The way she fought was juvenile hall style. So she's supposed to fight some girl out on campus, right? Mm-hmm. At certain time during the day. Like when I see her, on site, blah, blah, blah. You know how she started the fight? She peed in a cup in the bathroom and threw the cup piss on the girl. You know what they do in jail?
Yeah.
Do the piss on the girl and then beat her up. And that's how ghetto it was in my school, dude.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. So people will remember that. And then one other thing, too. I'm just throwing this out for some of my friends who are listening. Just talking about the horrible, or this the hood life. A friend of mine, he got his name. I can't say his name. My friend, we'll call him Larry. My friend Larry, he cheated on his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. But he was a kind of a quasi gang member, because you can dress like a gang member, be with gangs, but you never get jumped in. But they're just, you guys grew up together. Yeah. So that's your friends. So he's like a quasi gang member. Sometimes he'd do some dirt with him. Sometimes he wouldn't. His girlfriend, gang member. Yeah. So they're dating. He cheated on her. So she's like, "Oh, we're gonna have to fight." And we were laughing, like, "Don't fight your girlfriend," because I'm not, man. Like we're laughing. Yeah. He goes, "Dude, I'm not gonna hit a woman." Blah blah blah. She's like, after school, and we both had to walk to this park called Patriots Park, which is right behind our school. A lot of people have to walk through the park to get to wherever to get home. And she was there at the basketball court waiting for him, dude. Wow. And she's like,
"Let's go.
What's up, N-word? What's up, N-word?" And in the hood, no one knows how to fight. So you have your hands. Did people put their hands like this when you're in school, like weird?
Yeah. The haymaker.
Yeah. She's like, "What's up, N-word? What's up, N-word?" And we're laughing, and is laughing. We're just dying, right? She cracks him. Right in the face. He's like, "Oh, he's bleeding."
Wow.
So they get into a full-on fight. She beats him up. Did I just say his name?
You did.
I gotta bleep that. I gotta bleep that.
He went from Larry to somebody else.
Oh crap! I gotta bleep that. But she beat him up, and I know this is sad to say. I mean, this is obviously not a good thing. This is violence. But back then, that's probably one of the funniest days of my life. Yeah. Like we were on the ground laughing so hard, watching him get beat up by his girlfriend. Wow. I can't believe I said his name. I gotta bleep that. Sorry. But going back to what we're talking about, I got off there. Yeah. What makes children, like, I believe that children are like just super vulnerable to traumas, or just like, I mean, they're just vulnerable, period. Yeah. Why are they more vulnerable?
Well, kind of what we mentioned earlier is they're just impressionable. When we're talking about kids, right, whether it be young kids, the teens, when I call them as very imprinting takes place, is that you got to think about what they're going through at that stage of life. Their stage of life issues. Kids are going through that identity development where they're trying to understand themselves, who they are. They are vulnerable to things like peer pressure, right? Expectations, right? That's why like peer pressure is really pretty prominent in that stage, because they're trying to grasp in who they are. Self-acceptance, right? Or social acceptance is critically important. An image that you present is really huge. They're not very resourceful, right? There's meaning that they can be exploited pretty easily to some degree. I'm talking about just in general why they're so vulnerable to some of these things and traumas. Um, and they just don't have life experience. They haven't developed certain life knowledge, certain level of resilience. There's fearfulness and so forth. So that there's a major difference between them and an adult. But they have naivety, right? And people sometimes can take advantage of that in a dysfunctional, unhealthy way. But I just think just them being of age, right, and a lot of the attributes that they haven't developed yet, life experience is I believe why they're exceptionally vulnerable. And like I said earlier, is sometimes they can fly under the radar as we just presume that they're resilient just because they're not expressing. And when we don't realize they might not have the ability to express or have the terms or they don't have the means to express themselves.
Yeah.
And then you mix that in with family dynamics where it's not okay to be a certain way, express a certain way. It can all become this perfect storm. But so yeah, I mean, yeah, they are what we call they can be very vulnerable, and so that's why it's really important for parents, like I said earlier, is to acknowledge them and talk to them. We don't do that often as much anymore. To sit down and understand their world. Right. One of the things that I like to talk about is you're wearing glasses. Is for me to truly grasp your world. You talk about in your words the ghetto life and the traumas. To really, for me to truly empathize, I need to understand your world from your worldview. And then if you want to understand my world, right, you use my lens and try to really understand my world from my worldview. There's a difference between compassion and empathy. Compassion is, well, your dog died, right? Really sad for you. Empathy is, wow, your dog died. My dog died some years ago. I can really understand and grasp what you're going through. So it's literally what we say, putting yourself in their shoes. I like to use the glass lens, is to really grasp and acknowledge and look and understand someone's view from their worldview from their perspective. And so we don't do that a lot with parents and with kids. Is there's always these generational divides, and if we sit down and really talk to them and listen to what they're telling us is really important because there's a lot of nuances there that we miss, and that's where they can fly under the radar. And most kids don't talk, right? My 15-year-old, she's very different than my 9-year-old, and she's not open to talking as much. Doesn't mean that she's not having any challenges or struggles. It just means that my language, my approach has to change, has to be different than with my 9-year-old. My 9-year-old will tell you and ask you anything. I don't know if you've ever seen him running around HQ. He will.
Oh, yeah. He walks up to me all the time and calls me, what's that pro wrestler's name again?
Bobby Lashley.
He goes, Bobby Lashley.
No. So just side note, my little son, I used to really be into WWE, and then I got busy with school and stuff, and then so I got integrated into it. And so every Monday, Friday, we're watching Monday Night Raw to Friday Night SmackDown and the special events, WrestleMania. We went to WrestleMania. We went to Monday Night Raw recently in Ontario, California. And but the first time he saw you, he says, "Dad, is that Bobby Lashley?" We have a lot of celebrities, by the way.
Yes.
We have Andre Galvao lookalike, truly Andre Galvao lookalike. There's a lot, but I want to say this earlier. Professor Eddie Bravo, please, I'm not in any way impersonating or emulating you. If you looked at my flexibility, you would definitely know I am not Eddie Bravo. But anyhow, but yeah, my son. So, but he's very expressive.
Yeah,
he's very expressive. He'll tell you what's going on. I mean, he's 9, but
he seems like he has the personality of like he likes to have fun and laugh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I get stressed. The other day he was running around. I had to literally leave a guard rotation because he was literally running around with his other teammate in and out of the locker room. And I find out, he showed me they were making videos of pranking each other and going all around. And I literally had to stop guard rotation and go down and tell him. And so, but he's expressive emotionally. And my daughter literally was down there. As you remember, you met my daughter. Mm-hmm. She was literally down there on her iPad, very quiet, had no idea. There could be a fire burning, and she's there. And my son's literally running around circles around her downstairs, and just different in expression.
Yeah.
And my point being is you would assume that maybe my daughter, oh, she's fine, look at her, or my son's fine. But we have to recognize that we sometimes take things at face value, and we have to really understand someone's story. That's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes. We just make these assumptions based on face value of what we see. And, but I believe in the work that I do, I don't care who you are, how successful you are, what socioeconomic status you are, where you come from as a family. You lift up the hood, meaning the inside. There's something going on there. There's something or some things that they struggle with, whether it be self-worth, whether it be body image, whether it be sense of belongingness, self-acceptance, emptiness, loneliness. If you just talk to them, and we make too many assumptions about people. And that's one of the things, if I may share, you and I are the same, is I'm talking a lot. Like at HQ, I love sitting down, right? And at tournaments, right? I know I was talking to someone, and man, some of my good friends right now are competitors from different schools. And you'd be amazed of some of these people's stories. Yeah. And like at HQ, I'm sitting there listening to stories where sometimes I literally have to be called off the bench to, hey, spar, and so forth. But I love hearing people's stories, and I think that's just a natural inclination. But as you know, and that's why what you're doing as well, is there's a lot to people's narrative and stories. And if we get to know people, get past that first base of communication, people have a lot to offer and a lot to share. Doesn't matter who you are, you have some impact in this world. Your job is to find it.
Yeah. And one thing too about kids is that, like, my last 2 years of teaching, I taught in East LA at a very, very low income school. And it's actually the first school I taught at where I've worked with at-risk kids before. Mm-hmm. These kids aren't necessarily at risk. They're just poor, mm-hmm. like in the hood. And it's the first school I taught at where there's literally homeless people just laying, like they're laying against the fence, the school fence, like just sleep or whatever. The kids are just stepping over them, coming to school, like that type of environment. And besides it triggering me a lot by being around these kids that are suffering, because I relate, I could feel the, I see things, I recognize it, and so like I remember there was one time there was a girl that was at the school I was at, and she was, school lunches. Have you ever seen a school lunch?
Yeah. It's
horrible. Well, I don't know how it is. Oh, at least in Los Angeles, it's horrible. Yeah. I don't know how it is in Orange County, but it's the same company that makes prison food. That's mm-hmm. contracted out there, and so it's like even the staff when I started there, I can't say the name of the school mm-hmm. because I don't want to get in trouble. They told me, don't eat the lunch, you'll get sick, you'll get a stomach ache, and so but these kids are eating it. And I remember one time. I was helping a teacher cover her class, and this is after lunch, and this skinny girl had saved her half her food to take home for dinner. Oh. And she was telling me, oh yeah, this is so good, and this part, and she was telling me how great it is and stuff. Mm. Dude, I almost started crying watching her do that, and it triggered me. And I was driving home, and I called my friend. I have a really good friend, and I talk to him all the time about my whole life. He's family to me.
Got it.
And so I'm like, hey man, I'm really struggling here at my job, dude. I just started. This is when I first started. This kid just said this stuff. And at this point, I'd already, I secret, like no one knows this, but I would buy kids shoes or clothes because I see they're coming in shoes that don't fit them.
Yeah.
They're poor. And the thing is, a lot of them are illegal. Their parents are illegal. So their parents can't get on public assistance. And some of them live in cars with their parents. And they don't want to separate. The school counselors won't report them because if you separate them, their mental health declines. They'll end up like in a foster home. Their parents get sent to Mexico or a detainment center. So what they do is just leave them alone.
Got it.
So that triggered me so much that I went and bought a refrigerator and I put it in my classroom.
Oh, wow.
And then every week, sometimes twice a week, I would go to Costco. And I'm pretty sure the kids will pop because they listen to this podcast. They write me now.
Oh,
and
really?
they follow the podcast. And I would put food in there, and I put a microwave too. And I said, have whatever you want. And they're like, we take for granted how good a Costco. You ever have a muffin from Costco?
Yeah.
Like, but it's a muffin, right?
Yeah,
but
it's a muffin.
To them,
that's the world.
Oh my God. They're like, where'd you get this? Like they're blown away.
Are you talking about the big ones?
The big ones.
The big ones.
The big ones.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
good. The blueberry.
Yeah. Like, but I'd have it in there. Take what you want. I had food, the croissants from Costco, everything's Costco, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then I got to the point where I enjoyed, like, I'd be walking through Costco. Oh, they're gonna like this.
They're gonna like
and
this.
then I started
goldfish and
oh yeah, the goldfish and all this stuff.
Man.
And but my point is that I went to a school like that, and I could see it in them. Like they didn't even have to tell me what they're going through or what some of them are going through. Because in a school like that too, you have kids that actually have very solid families. Good mom and dad are in the house. They're home, eat dinner together, whatever. But a lot of them, no.
Yeah.
And I could see that in them, and I could see that in the kid, and I could recognize that. Yeah. And sadly it's from my own traumas or from my own experience where I could see a kid that's broken or they're going through a lot. They don't even have to tell me anything. And I even know, like, there's been times where I'll pull the kid aside, like, hey, do you need help? And they're like, no, man, no, I don't need any help.
Yeah, what's up?
And I'm like, no, seriously, no one's going to know. Once they trust me and they know that no one's going to know, can I have some pants?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I do, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't want to get in trouble from, it's weird, these rules schools have. So what I do is I would order from Amazon, have it delivered to their school counselor at the school site, and then the counselor would give it to them. Yeah, because first I was giving them stuff, and it's crazy too because kids from other classes that aren't even my students, they would hear and they'd come and ask me for food, and I'd give them food or I'd give them whatever, clothes, and then it got to the point there was even kids from high schools that weren't at my high school. They would ditch, and because they'd be friend, and they would ditch and come on campus to meet me, to eat. And maybe they needed help with something. Yeah, that's how. But I'm gonna go on a rant here for a second. And that's the thing that kind of gets me is that's in America. That's in California. I think one of the richest states. It is the richest state in the United States, if I remember correctly. And our economy is bigger than most countries. Just the state of California, the kind of money, and it sits wrong with me because these kids suffer daily through this stuff, you know. And I mean, it's their life. Like we look at it and we go, oh man, that's horrible. It's more than horrible. It's real. Like people need to realize that there's children right now, even as I speak right now, that are just living like that. They go home. Like when I was going through it the worst, the only time I ate was my school lunch. I would go home. There's no dinner. There's no nothing. You know, I don't eat on the weekends, you know, and summertime, I'm trying to hang out with whoever's friends' moms had food. And there's kids living like that. Like that, it's real. And I hope that people realize that it's just don't like how we look at numbers. Like, oh, like right now, Israel and Hamas are at war, and we're like, oh yeah, 500 people died, and we just go on a day, man, that's a lot. No, those are real people. You know, that's someone's dad, someone's son. Some of those are babies. You know, so when we're looking at taking that here to the United States, Los Angeles Unified School District, I think, is the second largest or the largest school district in the United States. It's huge. It needs to be actually chopped down, but it's huge. Tons of those kids are poor. You got kids in Beverly Hills. For some reason, they get the good lunches. The kids in the poor areas, like I have kids, because my school was it was a special type of school. I don't want to say too much about it because some people know what school it is, and I don't want to put anybody on blast. But the kids from my school were from the city of Compton. This place called Cudahy. Have you heard of the city of Cudahy?
Cudahy, no.
Yeah, it's in L.A. It's a small city surrounded by cities. It's called Cudahy. I think it has one street signal in it.
Oh wow.
Watts.
Okay.
You know, and just the surrounding areas. You know, and so there. It just we don't have money for that. We ask for money. Oh, we don't have money for schooling. The teachers are underpaid. Actually, working at Los Angeles Unified School District was the lowest paid teaching position I've ever had in my life. It was literally 50% of what I got paid working in a different school district. And working there, we don't have money. The federal government doesn't have money, but we have billions to send to Ukraine. You know, to rebuild Ukraine after they're being attacked, to feed them, and it's like you don't have $1 million. To help these children. And I'm just sharing that, and I don't mean to go off on a political round. I'm not trying to take political sides. It's children that need help, you know, and it affects them because I think even someone said this, and I haven't. I use this term sometimes. I don't know if I fully believe it's factually accurate, but some people say that poverty is violence. Have you ever heard that term before?
I have.
Poverty is a form of violence. I don't know, because those two words, I've never put them together, and I don't know how that works. But I could tell you that poverty causes trauma. I know that, and so these kids, on top of the rough life that they live, they're just being daily traumatized by the fact that just being hungry is traumatizing, dude. I mean, there's restaurants on the way home. They can't eat there. They don't have money. You know, so that's just something to think about. And I'm just sharing. And when people, I just want people to consider that when you have excess money or whatever, just maybe donate it to the school, donate to the kids, and don't just give it to the school, like give it to the principal. What you should do is say, this money or these resources, like if you own a store and you have excess stuff, say, I'd like to give it to the underprivileged kids, or I'd like to feed the kids with this, or this money, whatever. Usually they have some type of program. It's usually underfunded. No one cares about it. They usually care about the football team or the you know, because out of the football teams at the hood, the best, right? But there's so many kids suffering there on the campus. So I just wanted to share that, and I could connect with that. Like you're saying, the kids don't talk. If you're someone like me who's been from that environment, they don't have to talk. I could walk into a classroom and I could tell who's been abused. I could tell by the body language. And it's not that they're covering their body. There's just there's a insecurity to them, like their body language, you know, or even talking to them. And even some of the kids that don't have a father in the household, I could tell because I become the dad. I'm still, like, I haven't taught in 2 years. I have the kids still contact me on social media. They have father-son questions. You know, and I'm like, look, I got to the point, here's my number, just call me. And I talked to them on the phone. I talked to one last week, and he's telling me, like, I'm going to drop out of high school. I said, don't. He goes, well, we don't have any money. I need to work full time. I said, don't drop out. You need this high school diploma to you know, to get a better job. You're thinking short term. But there is another option for them, not a GED. There's actually an equivalency test. I don't know if you've heard of that. Yeah, there's an equivalency. I said, maybe go that route. Talk to your academic advisor, as long as it's not looked frowned upon when you try to move up. But it's that bad where a kid is debating stopping his education to feed his family, you know, his siblings. So,
Well, if there's anything I can highlight there is again, what you say is especially with kids, right? They're going to tell you first level answer, I'm fine. But when you really ask them, just like what you did, is you really said, hey, tell me what's really going on. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we need to capture, because there's a lot more to someone, especially a kid, because for what various reasons why they're not saying anything. They're ashamed. They're not supposed to. They're scared. Building rapport and trust is really important. And so that's what I'm asking for people to do, especially with those younger populations, is sometimes just asking them. They're not going to tell you right off bat, and they might not tell you right then and there. But what you're doing is what I call planting seeds, little seeds. What you did is you planted a seed in that person, if they didn't speak, that, hey, this person is really cares about me. Over that, it's because you got to realize a lot of them don't have trusting issues. They may not have figures in their life, parental figures, or they've had abandonment or relationships that have lost, and so they're in protective mode. And you see that a lot when I mentioned earlier that I worked with severely and emotionally abused adolescents, right? They'll push you and push you and push you because they want to really see, is this person really in it for me? Is this person going to leave? Because that's the narrative that they're used to. And I've heard, you know, they would refer to the staff members racially. They will do things, heinous stuff, right? Pour water in your face, or just say really, really offensive things, is because what they're really trying to do is they're trying to test, is this person for real? And I've seen that happen before. And another thing that you're doing, which is great, and thank you by the way, for you doing that. But what I say is you're planting these very powerful seeds and for them, and not just for them, but for maybe people they may affect, right? Is that you reassure them that there is still goodness, that we can still trust in people, that people do care about them, they have worth. And so by planting those very powerful seeds, you might be one of the change factors for them, where they're not going to decide or not to be nice to someone or to be kind or not to someone, and say, hey, there's kindness out there. There are people who do care, and I do matter there. And that's what you essentially, speaking for the kids, is what you are communicating to them, is that you do matter. And you never know, they may pay that forward in some respects. And so that's one thing with kids too, is they have strong memories, right? I remember things that, there's a saying, people won't remember what you told them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that's really important. There's some things that I remember as early childhood, good or maybe not so good stuff. And those are hopefully some of the things that you did for them, is planting these very powerful seeds for them and give them some glimmer of hope that just because I'm in this family doesn't mean that this is my life trajectory, is that you show them that there's other options and ways to view the world in front of them. So,
Yeah, you know what? It's a trust thing I've noticed, is that once they trust you, they're open. They're open about everything, and sometimes a little too open. Like, because sometimes they'll say, like, I've had children tell me stuff, make me cry.
Yeah,
It's so bad, and like sometimes I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't know that. But I've noticed the thing that put the barrier down is when I was open to about them. I mean, open about myself.
Yes.
I'm like, we do like an icebreaker at the beginning of every semester, so all the kids get to know each other. No one says anything. My favorite color's blue. My favorite movie's this. No one really gets in the deep stuff. But then I usually have these talks with them, and so at least once a week. And at one of the talks, at some point, it's usually at the beginning of each semester, I just open up and tell them, hey, man, I grew up in rough. I was around gangs. I've seen a lot of violence. I've seen drugs. I've seen it all. And I just kind of tell them, and they could tell, because even the way I'm saying it and the things I've seen, and next thing you know, they open up. They go, this guy, he's not from South Orange County, and he just happened to get a job here, and he's going to transfer out eventually, but doesn't care about us. And actually, I felt bad leaving, man. Like when I left, just share one other thing. When I left, the kids were crying, but I couldn't. It was unsustainable to work there financially. I just couldn't. And I remember they were crying, like weeping, dude. Like, it was so bad. And I've left schools before. I've never had it that bad before. And it was just tugging at me. And I remember, like, the kids' school was out. And I said, let them leave off campus. I'm just gonna stay in my classroom because I don't want to walk around. Yeah. Because it's gonna get worse. And I remember I waited till like maybe an hour, and kids are gone. I went into the office, got things, told everybody, just close out, turn in my keys, blah, blah, blah. One of the kids was still there, and she saw me. She started crying again and hugged me. And I was like, oh, man, it was just, it's so rough. And it just made me realize, like, that's how much, I'm not trying to say this is a reflection of me, like I'm the Messiah, but that's how much in need they are. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's a reflection of how much they're lacking. Because they're only around me, most of them, 1 hour a day in a class, and then they'll spend their lunch in their class. They'll hang out in my classroom. But that's it. Yeah. And they are so desperate for that attention, and it's...
Which we call unmet needs, a lot of them. And so, well, if anything, I know it's very, very tough emotionally to have left them, but just recognize the impact that you had on them at that period of life. There's a saying... T.D. Jakes said, sometimes people come into your reason or just for a season, right? And, they're not meant to be. And I learned that in college when you have a study partner and your study partners, and all of a sudden you don't talk anymore for whatever reason, or a friendship that didn't last, or a romantic relationship. But there's sometimes people or events or situations come into your life for a reason or for a season. And you came into life for that season. And so it's not so much when you left and what they no longer had, but what you provided for them. And so that's what I think is really important for us, to recognize our impact. And we can have impact. We just don't realize it in a small way. Impact, we think we have to do grand things. But literally acknowledging someone like, hey, how are you doing? How was your weekend? That's it. Could make a difference for someone who was maybe thinking about ending their life.
Yeah.
to just acknowledging someone or a stranger in a grocery store, just opening a door for them, that couldn't mean the difference, is because you've acknowledged their presence.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of impact we have, and that's what I encourage a lot of people to do. We have 8 billion people in the world. I believe we have 1/8 billionth responsibility to be our best version, to have an impact. So
That's a good, yeah.
Hey, Kenny,
I know.
I'm starting to think about my match now.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's
actually
all good.
my first match is a friend of mine. We met, we became friends, and there you go again.
No. Tell them when we're on the mat, we are not friends.
Well, I literally said this. My last tournament, the Master Worlds, great friend of mine, Alan, if you're listening out there, trains at HQ from Australia. His daughter won gold. He won gold all submissions last year as a blue belt, and we trained together. We've been friends, and we found out I had a bye, and he was my second match. And we were like upset. We learned at HQ like on the Thursday or Tuesday of that week, and we were upset because we thought from the same school, we'd been opposite brackets, and we were talking about, okay, if we win, we'll meet each other in the finals. But we met because there was like 4 people from our school, and so you had to put them together. So there's not 4 people from the same school on the podium. And so we went. But right before the match, right, we hugged, and I told him, I said, hey, Alan, for 5 minutes, let's pretend we're not friends. Right? He looked at me kind of weird, and I said, let's fight hard. And so we did, and we went at it. We went at it, and it was awesome. And then we hugged afterwards. We literally hugged. There was a picture. His friend was a photographer and took pictures of literally us hugging and laughing. But that's the great thing about what we do, and that is you can have the closest friends, and then the culture of it is we know what it takes to get out there, but when you're done, it's turned off. Yeah. And so, but yeah, my buddy, we've fought before, and so we're meeting again. So I'll tell him to wait up for me. Don't DQ me if I'm late.
Well, one thing too before you go,
yeah,
and I got to bring you back. Do you mind coming
Absolutely.
back? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I would love to come.
Okay, because we didn't really we touched on
maybe not on a tournament day anymore.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah,
but you've shared some very important information, and I'm pretty sure that people are going to want to know how to find you.
Okay.
You have a website. Can you tell people how to find you online and your social media handles?
Sure. My website is all one word, no dash, no underscores. And I'll spell it. It's drbrianlicuanan.com. So Dr. DrBrian as in Nancy, LIC as in cat, UAN as in Nancy, AN as in Nancy.com. And so, yeah, you can find me there, a little bit about me and kind of the service I provide, and the book that's coming out probably hopefully in 2024. So tells a little bit about that as well. So yeah, feel free to visit me there and so forth.
All right, cool. All right, thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
That.
Hopefully when I come back, I'll have some good news for you.
Cool. Sounds good.
I won't lie about it.
Deal. All right, man. Well, thank you for your time.
Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.